Hi, this is Dan with Invest Rent to Own, and today we're going to cover the 7 questions to ask before setting up an LLC. I have a lot of investors that come to me and they want to get everything right before they get started. And I often give them the advice that the first thing you should be doing is not setting up an LLC. First thing you need to be doing is learning how to make money in real estate investing and making sure that that's something that you want to do. So if you're thinking about setting up an LLC, here's some questions that I think you should ask yourself as you're working through the process. Why are you setting up the LLC in the first place? Yeah, I'm sure you've read a lot of books by now that tell you it's very important that you get limited liability as part of your things, as part of your overall strategy with real estate investing. And it is a good idea. However, let's see, in 20 years of real estate investing, I've never really needed any limited liability. Maybe that's because I've done it right and I've set up LLCs as appropriate. And so I've never had that situation come to me that went, oh crap, I wish I had done an LLC. But I also know early on, yeah, you might make some mistakes, but it's more than likely you're not going to get into a lawsuit on the first couple of deals. So yeah, limited liability is a good thing to have. Perhaps you want to be a little bit more formal with your real estate investing. Make sure it's not a hobby. It's not just on a Schedule C, for example, on your tax return. You actually want to do your own 1065 instead. These are all good reasons, but you want to know your why as to setting it up. Have I done a deal or two? I think this is a very important thing. You need to have done a deal or two and make sure that this is something that you want to persist about. Once you file an LLC, there will be things that you'll need to do to shut it down if you decide that you don't want to continue with it. So I think it's a good idea. You can always file on Schedule Cs. You can always be doing these deals without an LLC. Make sure that this is something that you really want to do and that you're going to persist in. So do a deal or two before you set up an LLC is my recommendation. Who are the owners? You need to know if you're actually going to do this, how is your ownership? My first LLC that I set up was just my wife and I, and then we started having children and we started to evolve how we wanted to do the ownership. We began gifting some to our children so that it could become part of our strategy towards giving them their inheritance in the future. Not exactly something that I'm planning on right now, but that is something you should think about. Do you have other investors that you're bringing into it? What is the spread on money? I've recently set up an LLC where one investor is going to bring in all the capital, and I'm splitting 50-50, but they're going to get all their capital back. With LLCs, there's all sorts of different ways that you can strategize things. You can do them for tax benefits, where somebody's going to get a larger share of the losses. You can do it capital gains differently than the distributions. There's lots of different ways. So knowing who the owners are begins, thinking through what these other potential things that you could do. Well, what state are you going to incorporate in or set up your LLC in? That's an important thing because different states have got different taxes, and so I've heard a lot of recommendations about doing a Nevada LLC or a Nevada corporation. Those were back in the day when California was big business and everyone wanted to set it up in Nevada because of privacy and so on and so forth. I'm not really sure if that's still the advice today, but I've set mine in the state that I do business primarily is what I did. There's no adverse tax consequences for it. Yeah, tax consequences. That's something that you have to think about when you're thinking about what state to put it in. If you're living in one state, you'll have to end up, but doing business in another, you'll have to figure out what kind of returns you need to file. I have my CPA do all it. So definitely you should be talking to a CPA at this point to figure out whether you make a big boo-boo or not. Do you need a lawyer? Initially, with the first LLC that I did, I did have a lawyer, but honestly, the guy was a schmuck. He really didn't give me any benefits whatsoever, other than I knew that it was filed for properly. I found myself that you can get the legal forms online just as easily. Make sure that for the state that you're in, there's a lot of things that are very boilerplate where you just fill out a little bit of the information and then you're up and running. And it's really just your articles of, or your operating agreement. But you might need a registered agent. And in those cases, having a lawyer is a good person to have on a file. I didn't end up doing a registered agent until a little bit further down the line when I'm now not living in the state that I'm doing a business in. And at this point, I had also done several evictions where I felt comfortable with a particular lawyer. And so he wasn't going to charge me extra fees at all of making me, making him my registered agent for the LLCs that I do business with. I was bringing him enough business. So there you have it. Those are the 7 questions that I think you should ask yourself before you set up an LLC. If you like this, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'm also going to be doing another video on the more specifics about how to set up an LLC and the things that you need to do through the legwork of accomplishing that. So look forward to that video when it comes out soon.